Good evening, everyone. I, Abhishek Kumar Bhanu, welcome to you all on behalf of our Finance Club. Let me give you a brief introduction about our Finance Club. What our Finance Club do? Our Finance Club is act as a platform for enthusiastic students who are here to learn about the world of finance. We conduct a session for those people who are interested in finance. We emphasize and cover different domains like investment, trading, personal finance, etc. Going forward to the next slides, money is to my social existence what health is to my body by Maxon Cooley. He was an American aphorist known for his witty aphorism. Before we are going to start our talk show, let's talk about a few basic things about health finance, about basic knowledge about it. What is meant by healthcare finance in the broad sense? It's a healthcare financing in a broad sense, dealing with the concept of financing, insurance, and payment. The key impact of finance, the healthcare delivery system involving the determinant access of the healthcare systems. How the concept of premium, cover services, and cost sharing apply to health insurance. Premiums is the amount of paid periodically to the insured by the insured for covering its risk. Share of cost cover for the insurance that is payout for your own pocket. How does the Medicare Advantage program works? It's have many advantages. Is provide hospital coverage, medical coverage, alternate way to receive the medical benefits, provide the prescription drugs coverage all through from this health finance, if you know it well. Moving forward to the next slide. So our club is today going to organize a talk show, which we called as the Finology Talk Show on theme of health finance. From this onward, this show will be forwarded to my friends Amrit Raj. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. So, welcome back everyone to the Finology Talk series episode 2, which will be on the topic health finance. So, as you all know, our life is very uncertain, and we can have any kind of tragedy and things which will not be in our hand in somewhere near future. So, like everyone has been dealing with COVID and this scenario, which no one had thought. So these things, when they come in the life, they take a hefty amount of your savings from, and it will be involved in these hospitals costs, and everything is so high. So you need to have something, some plan from behind, which will help you to deal with these things in a more practical manner, and it doesn't eats out your savings and all. So these things which will be discussed in the today's seminar. And moving on to the next slide, will and the speaker for guest speaker for today is Dr. Milind Choudhary. So I like to introduce him to you. Dr. Milind Choudhary is a proud alumni of University of Pune, where he completed his PhD in microbiology and nanotechnology. So, and he was the manager of technology and production development at Thomas Baker Biosciences Private Limited, and he also has award that is Asian Association Business Incubation Award. So Torch Award for and that is and the best thing is that he is the first Indian to win this award. So I'll not take much time, and I'll introduce him to you. So please bring him on stage, Varun.
Hello, thank you.
Hi, Dr. Milind Chaudhary. How are you?
Yeah, Amrita, I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Since we had a long list of your achievements and things we introduced to you, but as I'll give you a chance. Like, how will you, if somebody wants to know who is like Dr. Milind Chaudhary, how will you introduce yourself? Like
Yeah, so I think
for them.
it's the kind of brief bio is already on my all social media handles. So I call myself an
Yeah.
entrepreneur first because I think that's a quality that is inherent by birth kind of thing. Second, I would definitely call myself as a
Yeah.
scientist because I'm a innovative, an innovator, scientist, kind of a person who always have a knack for innovating and developing something new and doing something different than what is there in the existing practices. Uh, I am a microbiologist at heart, so majority of my academics has happened in microbiology. I still have a love towards microbiology, medical sciences, and then infection control and prevention, which is my current area of focus and where I've been working and now trying to establish a company taking forward. So, I mean, this is a very small intro that I love teaching and I love interacting with young minds because it gives you a brief sense of what is happening and what is going to happen tomorrow. So that's how I love interacting with young people.
Okay, so that is what we wanted to know. So you call yourself first an entrepreneur, then a scientist, and microbiology and these things interest you a lot. Okay,
Sure.
okay, definitely. Then what we'll be moving towards the Q&A series. Before that, I just want to get an idea from you. Looking at the R&D of our country, how research and development things are being taken care by the country, different research centers in India. So, what do you think? Where do we stand in this field?
So I would,
Like
if I have to comment on the
uh, biotechnology and microbiology has been. Yeah, please carry.
Yeah. So basically, you have actually pinpointed one of the most critical and important area which needs to be focused in India. So if we have to look back, around 10 years back, the R&D ecosystem in India was developed as equivalent to the developing countries that we see today, but it was still not very prominently actually brought forward in terms of the things that were happening on a product development kind of a part. So R&D was still happening on a back end, but the application which actually translates into the kind of product that you see into the market was something which was a missing link in between. In one word, if I have to answer it, we are now at par, or in fact, I would say better than all the Western countries, because you have seen we were one of the first people who could bring out not only one but two vaccines immediately into the market with completing the R&D, concluding all the clinical studies and everything, and then showing the same efficacy as the Western world is showing. In fact, the requirements for India has always been challenging. So the kind of innovations that we were doing in India were more challenging and more towards bringing the best solution available. For example, in the case of vaccine itself, I mean, when vaccine development and protein and all these kind of things, that stabilities are at lower temperature much better than the room temperature kind of a thing. So this was one of the biggest challenge which Western country could actually not think from that their point of view, but we had to actually start our R&D from keeping this point in mind. So I think today the R&D in healthcare ecosystem has grown enormously. There was a time there when we could say that India is not at par, and then we need funding from outer sources and all those things for developing R&D. So there used to be a lot of funding available for R&D from organizations like World Bank, or there are separate funding agencies called foundations and all those things from USAID, and all those things used to fund a lot of R&D activities in India. Now their mandate was usually funding the R&D activities into developing countries. Now they kind of reduced down their funding to India, saying that India is
Yeah.
already a developed country. So I think we can now hold a proud tag amongst ourselves that we are kind of a part of developed country in terms of at least the R&D and innovation ecosystem is the way it needs to be grown. Yeah. So I think financially looking, of course, we are growing much faster. The healthcare ecosystem in India was already predicted to be somewhere around $30 billion, close by to that. Now we have reached much far figure, and then we're anticipating it will go into a triple digit $1 billion kind of an economy. And with the current investments that we are seeing into healthcare ecosystem, I think we have a very long and a very promising route to go in the R&D segment of healthcare ecosystem at least.
Okay, okay. So we got a good insight about how R&D ecosystem in India is working. So, Vardhan, can we have the next slide, please? So, it is kind of a linked question that where can we expect this industry to go in like next 5 to 10 years? Like how, as young minds, how we can like join this field at any, like after there are many BTech graduates here, like people who are in BTech. So how
Yeah.
in future like they can switch to these fields in research and development, and how they'll be benefited by this in next 5 to 10 years, like
Yeah.
the way this is improving.
Yeah, so I'll answer the question first. See, we have seen a lot of development and growth in the sunrise sectors that were typically actually brought into the terms, but now we are seeing a huge amount of growth drivers in the healthcare ecosystem. So the basic investment, the problem of any growth sector to grow much faster is the amount of investment which is actually put into the sector, in terms of both, in terms of R&D, in terms of distribution, in terms of marketing, and then reaching out the product to the end consumer. We have seen now a lot of hospitals being listed, generating IPOs. So of course they are now generating more funding from IPOs itself, and they have been oversubscribed at some point of time. Post COVID-19, the pre-COVID-19, actually the government investment in the healthcare ecosystem was very less. All of us know that, and we have been understanding this, why our GDP spent on in healthcare investment is very less than all the other countries. In fact, not even developed countries are enormously higher, but we are still way below according to our GDP investment on that. And I think with the new policies, we are, I think, planning at least around 2.5 to 3% of our GDP to be invested into healthcare ecosystem. This was pre-COVID-19, but post-COVID-19, the scenario is absolutely different. I think COVID actually rammed, and it was kind of an eye-opener for all of us, the amount of healthcare expenditures that we were doing in terms of both. I mean, from a consumer point of view, and from a government or public policy point of view, and from the private equity investor point of view also. The kind of investments that we were seeing were okay, but not enormously higher as it was into ITs and other prominent sectors. From a private equity investment point of view, government interventions were very less. And from a public point of view, because there is huge amount of out-of-pocket expense on healthcare expenditure, people are not people are kind of reluctant on relying onto the healthcare ecosystem. But now COVID actually opened eyes of all of us how vulnerable we are from all the point of view. There were no beds available, no ecosystem available, no right protocols available. Government was, had to be proactive in the area that they were not very well prepared about. The whole private ecosystem had to shift their focus from other systems. So the whole ecosystem has changed in terms of way we were investing. So we are now conducting this, everything is online and everything. So I think post COVID-19, and you've also seen how we could actually erect COVID wards in rapid force time period, like weeks together. In few weeks itself, we could actually build 100-bed hospitals or 1,000-bed hospitals, isolation wards, and all this kind of ecosystem we have created. There has been a huge amount of innovation. So this was on the healthcare ecosystem point of view. When I'm talking about the infrastructure, so now the infrastructure has increased to a level. So there will be a huge amount of influx of patients and healthcare providers also in this segment. So the complete healthcare ecosystem is going to grow to a much larger extent. This is one part of it. But on a second part, there is a huge amount of innovation happened on this. So you must have seen people have actually came with antimicrobial masks, and there were multiple mask manufacturers. There were oxygen manufacturers. There were small portable kind of oxygen generators, kind of new kind of devices which were never thought about it. Frugal innovation was happening around this. And now, once this trend has started, it's not going to stop post COVID-19. It's going to continue for a longer period of time. So, as this is going to grow, at one side, your healthcare infrastructure is growing, and on the other side, your innovation is also growing. And patient population in India and healthcare tourism also in India was always increasing. So, market was always here, but we never had a substantial amount of infrastructure and innovation to plug in and support this kind of ecosystem. So I think since both the things are moving hand in hand together now moving forward, I still see that we will see, I think, leapfrog moment in the healthcare industry moving forward. I definitely see it will actually go into close to $300 billion or more than that also, as a complete healthcare ecosystem to grow. in near future. Definitely.
Okay. 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 And coming to like one part I wanted to include here is like how the people like the students who are in the younger age, and suppose somebody is studying in bachelor's or somebody in masters, how they can like shift to these industries, like how they can get a chance to come in these industries, like in R&D industry, or maybe in some chemical industries, pharmacy, and how they can get employment opportunity in this field.
Yeah. So basically, these kind of industries are mostly technology intensive kind of technology industries. So mostly, the manpower required is more tech savvy, or maybe having more of a technical understanding of the particular subject requirement. So, for example, if we talk about pharma industry, so there are three or four kind of separate industries altogether. If you look at the manufacturing side, it's going to be pharma and biotech kind of industries that we are seeing growing in India at a much faster rate. So, in fact, the biologicals industry, which is more towards vaccine manufacturing kind of a thing, has also grown to a much larger extent in India. So, in both the industries, whether we are talking about biologicals or pharma kind of industries, BTech engineers are of course very valuable, because whenever we say manufacturing, it's going to be large scale manufacturing. So usually the R&D happens in a very smaller lab scale kind of a thing, and then it needs to be translated onto a much larger or volume based kind of a thing. At that point of time, I have seen a lot of BTech engineers being involved into the scale up kind of operations. Then there are multiple other segments which are accessories to it in production itself, are mostly raw material management, purchase management. These kind of areas are also opening up, and then there also technical expertise is much more required when we are talking about inventory management and purchasing of equipment. So a huge amount of technical expertise is required. Now, since all these kind of industries, at least from a manufacturing point of view, are required to have multiple standards, so GMP is something that they have to have, which is good manufacturing practices. So when we are talking about these kind of complex regulations and guidelines that you need to follow, the plant engineering and the plant structuring itself makes a very important part of it. So structuring and maintenance are two engineering aspects which are very very important, and of prime most important to these industries. So there also engineers and BTechs are usually involved into multiple levels and multiple segments. If we talk about the service industry, wherein more about healthcare providers, so hospitals are growing day by day, and we have seen some unfortunate incidences in the hospitals in the very recent case in Maharashtra itself. You have seen. So it could either gross negligence at some part, or it could be some technology failure. It might not be gross failure, but it could be a technology failure altogether. So now we have seen that if the technology has not been properly implemented from an engineering point of view, I'm saying the fire safety, fire hazard, and these things are not properly managed in healthcare ecosystem, it can have very dangerous kind of repercussions on the lives of the patients, which can actually delude not only the human sentiment, but also the reputation of a country as altogether. So I think all these things needs to be looked at, and all the BTechs and science-based people who have a technological understanding would be very valuable. They can play a very important part in this ecosystem moving forward.
Okay, okay, sir. So it's this industry, it is alone taking care of many other industry like supply chain management and all. So as it will grow further, it will need require more and more people from all sides to join it and move ahead together. So
Absolutely.
Vardhan, we go to the next slide. So the next like question is, what are the steps that I should follow to prevent myself from going into debt in case of a serious health problem? So it's kind of related to the personal finance thing.
So, very interesting question. This question is very relevant to Indian ecosystem,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the ecosystem is more cash driven and more out of pocket expenses on a healthcare ecosystem. The insurance based industry and these kind of problems would not have come if this question would not have come if they have been very well in penetration, and government point of view also implementation would have been better. So I would say stay healthy. That's the first and most important thing. and have a very healthy lifestyle. That's more important for don't get into the situations where you need to actually spend a lot of things on the healthcare expenditure. However, these things are inevitable. At some point of time, everybody have to visit the hospital, and in serious health problem, of course, the expenses are much higher. I think from a finance point of view, as young person, the better understanding, and I think with the new schemes from the government of India, when it will be implemented, I think there will be a lot of new things which will come into this, and maybe majority of this portion financial expenses on a healthcare part will be taken care by some or the other insurance provider, whether it is government or private kind of insurances, or some blend of both of them. But still, we don't have a complete clarity on that part as such right now. So I would say right now, one of the best bet that you can have in not going into debt is having insurances. And I think all of you must be knowing. So there are multiple insurances, and insurances are usually saves you from a lot of out of pocket expenses that you do. Fortunately, in healthcare also, the mediclaim industry, so there are two or three different type of insurances that you have. So mediclaim is going to give you the money to pay the expenses which you are doing on hospitalization and consumables or any other kind of hospital based expenses. There are life insurances which are going to cover your family, and then there are multiple other kind of term insurances which are basically in the case of terminal kind of situation, a death or anything, it's going to be the money which is given to your family. Right now, what I would suggest is, at this stage itself, you should have a blend of all the three things together. People think about most of the insurances from only tax point of view. If I take this insurance, it is going to save some of my tax. But the most important thing that they miss out is at some point of time they would require money to pay for these things, and then those money would be extensively higher than the quantum of money they would save on only on the tax part or only on the insurance premium part. For example, if you don't have right now, there are few insurances which are already enforced by the government. So for cars and other things, you need to have insurance. So if you don't have a car insurance, you will be fine. You're penalized to a much larger extent.
Yeah.
But that is only from a road safety point of view. That it is not from a point of view that your car should be saved, or a higher amount of out of pocket expense or unforeseen expense would be covered. That's not the intention of it. Whereas this is something which needs to be actually enforced, or maybe supported from the government. Because if let's say you have 5 lakhs or you have 5 lakhs or minimum of 5 lakhs insurance as a mediclaim that you have, and the premium that you would pay for it is annually somewhere around, it depends on company to company, but around 7,000 to 10,000 rupees. So if you are ready to spend, let's say, 1,000 rupees a month, save outside and forget about it as an insurance, in any case you are at least saved for 5 lakh rupees of hospitalization. So whether it is an accident kind of a thing, or kind of an illness, or those things, it is gonna help you for a longer period of time. As a student, I think the faster that you get into the insurance kind of a thing is going to help you, because these things are there are multiple parameters linked to it, and the faster the younger you enter into it, the lower the premium that you will be charged. And then
Yeah.
if you continue growing in that mediclaim kind of an insurance, it does not actually increase exponentially, and then it just increases by certain percentage as you grow older. So I think two things: one, take care of yourself, eat healthy, stay healthy. That's the first part. Second, I think as early as you start investing into insurances, it will be better for you.
Yeah, thank you. Like we got a because we had a question from an audience, Rishabh Kumar Sharma, that what are some tips to buy health insurance? So I think some things have been covered here. And will you like
Yeah.
to add something to it, Dr. Milind, if, like
Yeah.
in the tip?
Yeah, so see, there is no tip. Today there are huge amount of data available. So you go to Policy Bazaar, you compare multiple health insurances, and you can straight away buy any kind of health insurances. See, the only important aspect that you should look is how is their claim settlement process. In fact, whenever a person or somebody, representative comes to you about selling the health insurances, the most important thing you should look after is how their claim settlement process. So because buying insurance is just a one click thing. You pay and you got an insurance kind of a thing.
Definitely.
If it is cashless or reimbursement kind of insurance, you got the insurance. The real problem occurs when you are admitted, you don't have कुछ भी हो सकता है, you are not in your senses or these kind of things, and a claim
Yeah.
settlement is enormous amount of time. What happens is sometimes you will start figuring out why would have actually taken the insurance, because their claim settlement process is taking enormous amount of time. So I think one of the most important aspect on which you should judge any insurance provider is on its claim settlement point, and then the additional benefits that they would provide, whether it is cashless cards or these kind of things. The representative is continuously in touch with you, and other kind of things that you can provide.
Yeah, so thank you. We got like idea of, because there is a thing called claim settlement ratio. You'll always get on the websites while comparing policies. Do look for these things. Their policies, their claim settlement ratio, how much successful they have been. Because if the process is complicated and a person or a family which is going through these situations, they get a lot of difficulty in getting these things done, because already you are weak on the emotional part. So these things do have impact there. So please
Absolutely.
look at these things before buying some policy. Moving on to the next question, Vardhan, please can you show the next slide? Definitely, we have covered this. Next slide. So, what is the best business to start with the lowest overhead? Talking about, since you have been an entrepreneur, you have knowledge about this, you are in the research field also. So, this short insight can you give on this topic?
Okay, so this question is actually very difficult to answer.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
unless you get into a particular business, you will never come to know what are the lowest overheads and uh, other things. I can just give you a few pointers about, and I'm not saying that this is the best possible answer that I can give right now, or these are the pointers that you should judge which business you want to get into it.
Mhm.
First of all, the business, whatever business you want to start, you should actually think about what is your aim behind starting that business. That's the most important question. So, in fact, I interact with a lot of young students, and the only question that I ask them is, ask yourself this question uh, uh, about what you want to do. First of all, you have to ask yourself this question about, if I want to start a business, do I really want to start a business? Am I seriously an entrepreneur inside myself? Is the first question that you need to ask. And all these things about business and all these things comes later on. Because unless you are entrepreneur and you are ready to take that risk and challenges which are going to come in future, it is going, no matter how much research you do and all those things, it's still a very difficult thing. I think it's a very very personal kind of a choice to become an entrepreneur or start a business. So and industries guys who are successful are the ones who are persistent about it. They have never thought about anything else. They always wanted to do it and they did it. That kind of intention and intervention is needed to start a business. Now the pointers that I'm going to give you, I'm not going to give you a straight answer that okay fine, hey, you can go into online marketplaces which might have lesser amount of overheads and regulations and get into that business. I will not tell you that answer right now. I'll tell you a few positives and negatives of both the sides, and then you can judge into what kind of businesses that you want to get into. So there are two types of businesses that you can immediately, on a broader basis, you can categorize it into. Industry segment, I'm not right now touching. I'm just touching the broad business sense of it. So there is B2B and B2C kind of business. So B2B is business to business kind of a segment, and B2C is business to consumer kind of a segment. So all the FMCG products, that fast moving goods that you see, all the cosmetics and toothbrushes and toothpastes, all that kind of things that you see, which you can buy on shelf, are B2C kind of businesses. And the businesses wherein you see service sector businesses where you are interacting with some industry. So, for example, you're TCS and you're working for XYZ bank, then you are a B2B kind of a business. You're not into B2C kind of business. So on a broader terms, all the kind of businesses, whether it is healthcare industry, pharma industry, steel industry, or any other kind of industries, it's gonna be majoritarily based on these two kind of things. There are few businesses which are on a hybrid basis also, which are B2B2C. So kind of, they are reaching to the end product, but not directly, with some kind of partner involved in between, and then they are reaching to the end consumer. So this is the third segment in between. Now, what are the pluses and what are the negatives? So when you are doing a B2B kind of a business, you're mostly involved into some sort of service kind of business, or you're into technology kind of a business. So and it can be merge of both the things. So the kind of IT you say is called as a technology service business. So you are providing a technology also, but at the same part you are providing a service also to the end consumer. So these IT businesses are mostly in between of something called as technology and service business. In other kind of businesses where you are more of a tech savvy, for example, you're an engineering company and providing solutions in engineering kind of a field to multiple clients. Then, for example, you are a service provider to L&T. So, for example, L&T wants to do something, and then you are plugging in a small portion. It happens very much into automobile industry. None of the companies completely make the car. They actually, make smaller parts in different industries, and then they assemble together and they sell the whole car to the end consumer. So these kind of businesses are B2B businesses. Herein your client is one or two or multiple of them, but they are businesses. So your marketing efforts are lesser. The amount of convincing power that you require is only to a man-to-man kind of a thing. So you actually plugged in into one industry, convince one person, then the continuous business is going on. Then you don't have to spend too much time on convincing and acquiring more customers in this kind of area, B2B kind of businesses. All you have to do is just maintain the customer. So you provide quality, you provide reputed service and all that kind of things, and you maintain that business for a much longer period of time, and then you grow eventually on that. Whereas into B2C segment, and I'll come to drawbacks later on. So this is one positive point of B2B business. In B2C business, you are actually reaching out to the end consumer directly, and the amount of revenue that you can actually anticipate could be much higher because your volumes are higher. So for example, if I'm an engineering industry giving services to L&T, I can, for some construction kind of thing, I can give services to 5 or 6 or max 10 or 50 construction industries. But if I'm a B2C kind of, I'm selling you toothpaste, I can sell it to all the people in India, and I can sell it to all the people abroad. So my volume is on a much larger extent. So my total addressable market is much larger in a B2C business, and into a B2B business, it is kind of restricted to a much smaller kind of a addressable audience. Now, what are the drawbacks into it? Now, into B2C kind of thing, you will have to extensively invest into marketing pitch, because here you're not convincing one person. You have to convince all the people that you potentially can buy your solution, and you think they should be buying your solution, and then your revenue increases. So you'll have to spend and continuously keep on spending, because when you are into FMCG segment, there are chances that a competitor can immediately come with the same kind of product into your segment, and the competition. So that is a drawback. So even though you have a larger customer base, but you'll have to continuously keep investing into marketing, and continuously keep providing that amount of quality and keep innovating on that part. The drawback in B2B kind of business is it's not scalable to a much larger extent. So you have reached to one customer, two customer, five customer, 10 customers, and then there is stop. All you have to do is just keep supplying to a much larger extent, and then just keep maintaining that relationship. So it might not scale to a level that you would imagine a B2C kind of business to scale. However, there are exceptions. IT industry has boomed like anything. There are multiple companies that we have seen now valuating more than $1 billion, and they are doing exceptionally well in scaling operations also. So exceptions are on both the parts. Now, as long as the overheads are concerned, it all depends on which industry you want to get into, and it all depends on, for example, if I say a steel industry, the jump cost itself is going to be so much that the depreciation and all those things you calculate, you will be not cash positive till 10 to 15 or 20 years kind of a time. In pharma industry, it's kind of the same. In biotech industry, kind of same. The jump investment is huge amount of investment. The lower overheads are mostly towards B2C consumables kind of a business, wherein you find some contract manufacturer, get your product done, and then all you have to do is just a selling kind of a job, which also require a lot of marketing push, but you can start doing these kind of businesses. is something. So lower in overheads, I would still say, trading kind of businesses. And India is master in trading kind of businesses. We have been one of the best traders across the world. Uh, so I think trading kind of businesses would have lower overheads, when you're just buying the product from XYZ party, keeping your margins and just selling it across onto ABC party. Those kind of businesses have much lower overheads. Manufacturing, marketing, these kind of businesses will have higher overheads.
Okay, thank you. Like it was quite a very detailed answer you gave to this question.
Yeah.
So Vardhan, you can carry on from here.
So, sir, do you want to take some break or something of that sort, sir?
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, I'll be proceeding further and taking the show.
Yeah.
So, let us go to the next question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, how can a person with a 9 to 5 job aspire to be financial independent in a term, say, like 5 years?
5 years is might not be a very small time frame also.
Sir, how can a person with a 9 to 5 job aspire to be financial independent in a term, say, like 5 years?
Yeah, sorry. So that was a little disturbance at my side. So I said 9 to 5 job. That means you're talking about a person who is doing a job into some other industry and getting a salary as only his income source. And then now you want him to be financially independent in 5 years of time. Now, frankly speaking, it's a little difficult and over ambitious kind of plan, but not too much, to a much larger extent. Because right now I've seen people earning really good in India also. So now I think pretty much the wages are finalized and at par with what people are getting in the Western world. Also, so Indian wages are also increasing day by day as our economy also is also growing on a larger path. I think for being financially independent, for a person who is doing job, savings is a very important factor. And I'll tell you something which one of my guru had actually told me about the concept of savings. He was a physician, and he told me this thing, and I was none of the financial advisors actually gave me this kind of advice, but a physician doctor gave me this advice. Was really very surprising. So let me share it with you guys. So basically, the kind of equation that we usually follow for savings is income minus expenditure is equal to savings. Is the normal equation that all of us are following. So salary आया, party किया, इधर उधर गए, और फिर बाद में end में whatever money is in your account, you can call it as savings. Ideally, the equation should be reverse. It should be income minus savings is equal to expenditure. So so ideally the savings which were coming, the number of saving which was coming at the end of the month should ideally be at the starting of the month. So the moment you get the salary, you have to fix the amount of savings that you want to do. So income minus saving is going to be the money which is remaining with you, you can spend. And if that money is still remaining with you, that adds up to your savings. So this is a very important lesson that all of us needs to learn. And I think Indians are masters in savings. When the financial crisis was going on in 2008 in the Western world, Indian economy was much stable because of the savings-based economy that we already had. So I think this equation, I'm sure that a lot of families and a lot of people are following. But for the youngster, this is specifically my advice. Is that fix up the amount of savings that you want to do. So for example, now this is a finance club. So in this, you must be having lectures from a lot of people who are doing investing into stock markets and all those things. So in stock markets also, people do investments on the basis of a long-term horizon of what do you want to achieve in 5 years time, or down the line, 6 years or 7 year line, and then you factor in a point wherein there is amount of risk involved into it. So then what you do is you staggered your investment into multiple portfolios, and then that way you can mitigate the risk factors which is involved into your investments that you're doing. So I would suggest, just to give you a sense of what a person who has just started his job. So, for example, if some of you are in BTech final year, next year you're gonna get a job. The amount of salary that you're gonna get, straight away break it down into three portions. First of all, you will have to think about the tax bracket that you are into, and then you'll have to do investments from the tax bracket point of view. And from a tax bracket point of view, even if I would still suggest, even if you're not falling into a tax bracket, the kind of question that we addressed before about the healthcare expenditure, you should buy a health premium insurance, that is a mediclaim kind of an insurance, no matter what is the percentages. If you are starting with the bigger companies, usually the companies have group insurance kind of thing. So your healthcare insurance is usually been taken part from your salary. So companies do the saving kind of thing for you, for your behalf, and the insurance part is taken care of. So if you are breaking your salary into three parts, one part of your salary should be directly going into savings, and that savings you can link to kind of either in mutual funds, because that's the easiest way to invest today, or into other instruments that if you have certain amount of risk appetite or a certain understanding of the stock market, you can invest into equity, and multiple other instruments which are available today that you can do. The second portion of your salary is going to go into your expenses, which are your rentals and food and logistics and all those kind of things that you would do. And a certain portion you should keep in your not locked altogether in something called as FDs, but you can still today there are banks which are offering you more amount of interest rates on your savings account as well. Try and keep a certain portion of your salary into those accounts wherein there is huge amount of liquidity available for you. So if you need the money immediately, you can use it, but otherwise just consider that this is your saving as if you have locked it into an FD. You cannot break it, that kind of thing. So this is the way you should plan, and I think then chances are that you might achieve financial independency on a 5 years timeline.
So that was a very useful financial mantra for all the youngsters out there, sir. Thanks for giving us that. So we'll go to the next question, sir. How smooth or difficult is the journey of an entrepreneurship, or for a typical middle class person in our country?
So this was really difficult if this question would have been raised 10 years ago. Now the tables have turned, because there is huge amount of proactiveness in the whole startup ecosystem, and towards entrepreneurship. So I have also seen that colleges now are involving entrepreneurship course wherein students can gain experience on how to start the company, how to manage finances, how to start doing all those things. I have seen a huge and proactive role from the government side also in entrepreneurship in India, because now we have to reduce down our import dependency as much as possible, and that too mostly on manufacturing part, because we are too much dependent on countries like China, and we have seen huge amount of issues because of that. So I don't think this is now a difficult kind of thing for a middle class person also to start on the journey of an entrepreneur kind of thing. That's what I told you. This question needs to be asked to yourself. If you are ready enough to take that risk and to be on that bumpy ride for a few years in your life, I think you can still achieve to a much larger extent. See, there is so for students, I'll just for the help of all the students here, I'll just iterate some of the schemes which are there available. So for example, those who are doing BTech in biotechnology or biology kind of industries, there are huge amount of grants available from Government of India. There is a agency called as BIRAC, that is Biotechnology Industry Research Assistant Council, and they support young entrepreneurs very much, and their aim is only to support young entrepreneurs. There are multiple schemes. There are few good schemes wherein you don't have to really start on your entrepreneurial journey. They will give you only money to test yourself whether you can be an entrepreneur or not, kind of a stipend or something. So these are called as schemes like Nidhi Praya schemes, wherein they'll give you a jump grant, and this is a money that you can use. You don't have to pay back anything to government. So I mean, see, if the government is taking so much effort, it is our duty also to deliver on something which is very right that we can do back to it. So I think BIRAC is something that you should definitely look after all the biology people. It's not only biology, but they are also supporting a lot of other segments also. Even though it is biotechnology, but there is agriculture industry also involved to a much larger extent. Fortunately, engineers are the kind of people who can blend into anything. I have seen engineers becoming movie stars, and I have seen engineers becoming reporters and all those kind of things. So so I think engineers have that amount of kind of innovativeness in their mind, so they can always apply their knowledge to multiple fields. And I think today medical industry is growing, so there is where government is very proactive. Huge amount of grants are available, so you don't have to initially spend too much money from your pocket. All they want you to do is give your time, energy, and your brain to it, and then I think you can pull it off.
Okay, sir. So as we have talked about the entrepreneurship, sir, here is Satyam Kumar Patra, and he's asking a question regarding the same topic. So he's from a core branch of BTech, and he wants to join in the biological industry or the pharmacy in the pharmaceutical industry. So is it possible for him to do that?
I think a lot of NIT people join a lot of pharma industries. So you just have to pull in your alumni network, and you'll find a lot of people have joined pharma and biological industries. Few of my good friends who have done BTech from I think NITK Suratkal, and there are multiple places wherein people have done and joined pharma industry. So usually they join production kind of departments in pharma industries, where there is huge amount of requirements for scaling up kind of operations of so there are fermenters, there are reactors. So pharma biological industry is definitely a production area that you can join immediately, and there are always requirements for this. Post COVID-19, a lot of people are jumping up their operations, and then you will still find a lot of job opportunities in this area. Second, you can also look into brewery industry. There are also a lot of BTech people, because the fermenters are also biological operations, and it's also a biological process. So brewery industry also consumes a lot of BTech people in their production operations, design operations and scaling up kind of an operation. So I think these are the production department is mostly for BTech engineers, and I've seen a lot of people being placed into biological industries. Some of them have joined Serum Institute, some of them have joined Rich Core in Bangalore. So I mean, there are multiple companies that I've seen people BTech NIT people joining production department in biological industries.
So Satyam, I think your question has been answered by Dr. Milind. So we can proceed to the next question. Considering the increased temptation towards the medicine and the healthcare sector due to this pandemic and the COVID-19, what would you suggest about investing in stocks in these health-related companies, say all the medical field companies?
So I'm not a financial expert. I have actually, this is a disclaimer that I should have given in the starting, and I'm not a stock market expert. Also, I don't do a lot of investing into stock business. I'm investing myself in the startup, where I'm looking at a long term kind of returns for me and for my stakeholders, for my investors and everybody else. So I am not like investing into stock market too much. I would say right now the whole market is on an upward ride, and you've recently seen the market touched 50,000.
Yes.
So I think it is a surge already to the top. I seriously can't predict that whether it is going to increase. As healthcare expenditure is going to increase, of course there is going to be an incremental value, but still the stock market is very volatile. So I think I'll skip this question, and because I'm not an expert, I'll not give any kind of comments on this question.
No worries. We can take it as an option question.
Yeah.
We can go to the next question, sir. So, what are the other obligations that will prevent us from giving the business of 100% when we just start a startup company? So, is there any other better time than this pandemic or in the COVID situation to start a medical field company? And there's the last question, sir. And what are the alternatives if the company does not work?
Yeah. So Very good question, and this will I'll give you a very detailed understanding of how this thing work, and maybe this would answer it. So basically, what will first of all what will prevent us from giving 100% to the business is the first question, and it
Yes.
is actually a very valid and very important question, and that's why I was forcing, and this is the third time I'm telling you that you need to ask this question to yourself whether you seriously want to become an entrepreneur or not. Because before even riding on the journey of entrepreneur, no matter how attractive does it look, how government is also promoting entrepreneurship and giving entrepreneurship kind of thing, you need to ask yourself whether are you ready to do this. Because as person, there are different mind belts. For example, there are people who are not ready to take so much amount of risk, and there is completely, it's absolutely fine to not being able to take so much amount of risk. That's fine. There are few people who do not want to take enormous amount of pressure or stress unnecessarily. So uh, so you need to ask yourself this question first. What will prevent you on a longer run is, uh, when you start a business, uh, there is always a flip possibility. So it's a 50-50% chance you succeed or you don't succeed kind of thing. So what you essentially do is you mitigate the kind of risks that are coming. So the first thing that you do is you do planning in your head, that I want to start a business, then what are the things which are going to come, how I'm going to mitigate those things, and then second challenge, third challenge, and fourth challenge. Then you actually draw it down onto the paper, make a business plan out of it. So for example, you want to start xyz thing, then what are the things that you would require? So you do a resource management. These are the things I would require: these many people, this much amount of money for managing these many people, this is the raw material that I would require, this is how I'm going to process it, and this is how I'm going to sell it. So your business plan is now from your head, comes back to your paper. Now when you are iterating this business plan, all the places you can actually do the check marks, whether where can I go wrong. So for example, if I don't get a right amount of manpower, what will happen to that? If I don't get a right amount of raw material, what will happen to that? If my process doesn't work, what will happen? If I make everything but I'm not able to sell, what is going to happen? So these are the risk mitigations that you would do on paper before even executing the business. And once you have already mitigated and worked out these things and you're confident that I'm going to do it, you start the business. And then you realize that whatever you were thinking was wrong, and market tells you that, boss, hey, this is how it is going to work, not the way that you have thought about it. So then you iterate yourself. So that's what I'm saying. So this is the first inhibition that you're going to get, that the market is going to break you and bring you to the reality. This is the first thing that the market is going to do. This is the first hurdle. So when your ego is hurt, that okay, fine, I thought something which was right, and market is telling me that this is not right, are you ready to take that break on your ego? That's the first inhibition which is going to hamper your business. If you're not able to break it, and you still persistently say that okay, fine, you're telling me कि ये नहीं होगा, लेकिन मैं बोल रहा हूँ होगा ना, होगा ही, kind of thing, then uh, it's a wrong sign. It's a big red flag that you're carrying. Then once you get into it, it requires a huge amount of your own time, which is very important. And would you be able to give that much amount of time to it? So time becomes a big constraint. I always tell young people that there is a equation which works from risk appetite kind of a thing. As we grow older, the risk appetite decreases. Right now, as a student, your risk appetite is 100% because there are no liabilities to you. So you can take whatever amount of risks that you want to do. Right? As you grow old, your risk appetite will keep decreasing. You'll grow old, then you'll buy a flat, uska EMI dena hai, then you get married, and then multiple other things which are going to come into your life. Your risk appetite is going to come down to much larger because you'll have more liabilities to look after. So agar tumhe changes karne and iterations karne in your life, this is the time you can do. Later on, you will have to actually do something which is 100% to a much larger extent perfect to it. So the liabilities that comes with your growing years into your life are another limiting factor or inhibiting factor which will not allow you to give 100% to your business. But these are responsibilities that you will have to do. Shadi to karna hi hai sabko, right? Or you have to have your family and all those kind of, because that helps you. focus more onto your business and all those things. So before you reach to that point, make yourself accessible or established to a level where you can actually take that amount of risk and move forward beyond that point. Now coming to the second question, uh, would there be much better time to start business than now? I would say
Yes.
this is the best time to start business. One, you are young, your risk appetite is at 100%. Second, market is receptive. Newer innovations, I have seen companies turning from 100 or 50 to 100 CR to immediately jumping to 500 CR because of COVID-19. There are companies who were struggling to sell their products, have innovated and now reached to a level where they've already captured huge amount of market. All you have to do is just iterate and innovate to a level. Today, huge amount of opportunities available. The world is completely moving to another level. You have seen a huge amount of impact. For example, a small tweet from Elon Musk has actually jumped the shares of Signal. So you have seen this
Yes.
much amount of impact that COVID-19 has created. People are so finicky and impatient today that they don't know what to do and what not to do, kind of things. The share value jumped like anything. The people had to come out and say, hey, please study our balance sheet properly and then invest into us. These kind of things have happened and are happening because of COVID-19. So opportunity wise, if you're smart enough, huge amount of opportunity. Nobody had heard about Zoom. Nobody had heard about what this StreamYard. Nobody had heard about it. Today, everybody is accustomed to it. I have in my mobile Google Meet, Zoom, WebEx, whatnot. What was there?
All these platforms.
Multiple Indian apps came in. Arogya Setu type of app. Now it is majority in all our phones. I mean, imagine the disruption that Arogya Setu had brought because of just a simple innovation that they could do. I'm just giving you the most popular example. There are, I think, hundreds of examples that I can give you, which are actually, smaller innovation, smaller people, college-based innovation. Somebody made a robot which can actually deliver medicines inside the world. I mean, disruption that we're looking after. And then you're not going to stop at robot, because if you get acceptance of your robot in 10 or 15 hospitals, you've scaled. Now you're going to another level. So there is not never a better time. It's all about how how ready you are and how ready the market is. And what are our alternatives if this does not work out well? You can always do a job.
A simple answer for the last question.
See, failure, I'll tell you now, being into an entrepreneurial ecosystem for now around 5 years now, I would also, if I have to hire somebody, if he has a failure experience, I would put him higher on my priority list in an entrepreneurial ecosystem, because now he knows what not to do. So failure experience is very important. I tell you, the amount of things that the failure teaches you is not in your books. Is your teachers cannot teach you. Nobody can teach you what failure is gonna teach you, because the failure crushes your ego. That's the first best thing that it does. And
I agree with the point.
yeah, and then you can actually move forward. So I think failure is a very, very important aspect, and every entrepreneur, I fail every day. So in an entrepreneurial journey, you fail every day, and then you learn something out of it, and then you move forward. So that's the beauty of it. So don't worry about it. Just if you're strong enough, you want to get into it, get into it.
Sir, if a young adult is planning to open a startup, so how would you recommend him to have a backup plan, or should we go only focusing on one direction?
You
Like
focus.
only on the startup point.
No. Focus is very important. If you have a backup plan, then you will not be able to focus.
Okay, sir.
So it's
Let's
kind
move
of,
on.
yeah. Fire under your chair kind of thing. Yeah.
I'll just change the question, sir.
Yeah.
So, how do we look at starting a business from a position of its relative strength? How do we choose a business? Which one to choose, sir? A business which has a lower risk, or a business which has higher risk? If if a man is planning to open a startup, so what is the essential thing that he needs to see, the risk factor, and how easily will we be able to pick ourselves, move and how can we go move on to the next end?
Yeah. So I would say, uh, how do you look at starting the business from a position of a relative strength? I think it's a very important aspect of it. And again, I would still suggest that this question needs to be asked to yourself, whether you are that person who wants to become an entrepreneur. Have you dreamt about it? Have you actually thought about it, that I want to become an entrepreneur? If that is your driving force, then I think there is no stopping to you, because then if even if you fail, you will do something else, because that's how you are built, and that's your mental belt is. uh Choosing between a high risk and a low risk business is basically doesn't make sense. You don't choose the business which is high risk or low risk, and you don't equate it that way. It all depends on what is there inside you that actually made you start the kind of business that you want to be in. uh, uh, Ultimately, when you are starting the business, you actually don't look you don't think too much about the risks, because you want to start somewhere and then you want to see whether I'm able to do it. And once the failure comes in, then you actually start thinking about the risks that are involved into these kind of business. The kind of high risk and low risk things that you would see right now about the market projections and the market reports that you would see doesn't make much sense if you are determined to start even a high risk business. You have seen people who have actually jumped into high risk business and still being successful. The mantra of being successful was, they would also tell you this exact same thing, that it was their inner grit of actually doing it and delivering it which actually helped them out. And then get into it, experience the failure, and then you will get to know. So somebody was recently, I was listening to Dr. Deshpande from MIT, and then he gave a very good example. If you are winning every bet that you are not, then you are not betting. So for example, if you're sitting on a table and then you are winning every bet, then that means you are not betting enough. You have to fail to know that you are betting, right? And then only you will come to know that you are betting. So it's a very important and a valid point. How easily it will be to able to pick up ourselves and move on to next endeavor? Of course, it's a very difficult thing to do, and it's a heartbreaking thing. If you fail at some point of time, you actually lose out a lot, and it's difficult. But if you are that person that who says that I cannot work under somebody, and no matter how much it takes, I will still start something else, you will still do it. So it is difficult, but not impossible.
Yes. Okay, sir. So let's move to the last question, sir. Last question of the day. So, sir, your company has recently been granted a patent for the product named Nano Agicide.
Yeah.
Could you please explain to us what is it exactly, and what are some major projects that your company is working on currently?
Okay, sure. So we actually work into infection prevention and control. So before COVID-19, I was pitching to a lot of people that prevention is better than cure, and COVID-19 happened, and then COVID actually gave my pitch to everybody else, that prevention is better than cure. I think we have been taking now prevention very, very, very seriously, and we are looking at infection prevention as one of the most important priority. Everybody has a hand sanitizer just handy with them, so they are just preventing themselves from infection. So this was our pitch, and this is where the company's ideology lies with. We are actually the unsung heroes, people who are behind the curtains, working for infection prevention and stopping the infections from happening, and stopping you from spending too much on your healthcare expenditures. This is our prime goal that we are achieving. So we basically started working around 4 years ago on the technology called as nano agicide. Now this is nano agicide means silver into its nano form, and we all knew silver as an antimicrobial agent since ages, because being into an Indian ecosystem, we already had, in childhood, you feed by silver spoon and then drink in silver utensils and all those things. So silver was known as an antimicrobial agent, but nobody was able to scale silver as an antimicrobial agent to the level that it has the potential of reaching. There are few reasons behind it that in a bulk format, it's not as effective as it should have been. So what we did is we actually blended our conventional traditional knowledge with the cutting edge nanotechnology, and then we converted the silver into nanoparticles. So silver nanoparticles technology was also known for almost 2 decades, but nobody was able to commercially exploit it to the level that they should have done. What we identified was there were 3 or 4 major problems into it. One was people were not able to make stable, smart nanoparticles which can be industrially applicable. Second, they were never been able to scale it to the level that it can be industrially applicable. A lot of people are doing projects in silver nanoparticles, but in flask, in small vessels. So you can't actually scale it up. I mean, BTech engineers would understand scaling is such an important factor. And third and most important thing is silver is an expensive thing. To bring it down to a level when it becomes affordable technology for a lot of people to adapt to it was a challenge. So we actually worked on all these 3 challenges, and we got a patent now granted in India for nano side as a technology, where we are now been able to produce silver nanoparticles on a much larger scale into a GMP manufacturing facility. Now we have 2 business lines wherein we supply nano side as a silver nanoparticle solution to multiple companies which are making then and infection prevention products. So whether it is into disinfection space, whether into wound healing space, whether into cosmetic industry and multiple other industries as a raw material supplier and as a technology provider. So we work with them, help them develop their technologies and then launch their antimicrobial products using our nano side technologies product. And on a business front, as a B2C kind of a market, we work into hospital acquired infections. Now, you must have seen when you go to the hospital for any kind of surgery, ideal hospitalization time is 3 to 4 days, and then you are released from the hospital. But
Yes.
most of the times, the accessories and the products that are given inside the hospital can be a carrier of the infection. So, for example, a patient is bedridden, he cannot move and go to urinate. He is given a urinary catheter which helps him assisting urination at the place that he is into. Then there are IV cannulas that you must have seen, and there are multiple more smaller products which are inserted in human body. So when they are half inside and half outside the body, when they are draining the fluids out of the body and putting fluids inside the body, they actually carry bacteria inside the body and causes infections. So one of the kind of infections is urinary tract infections, which happens because of the catheter. It's called as catheter associated urinary tract infections. And 90% of the infections are because of catheters in the hospital settings. And in ICU patients, it's a very prominent kind of a thing. So what we are doing right now is we have actually incorporated our nanoegicide into catheter material, and we are the one of the first people who are launching antimicrobial urinary catheters inside the market. So what this will do is essentially they will kill all the bacteria which sits on the surface of the catheter and will prevent the infection. So when you have been inserted with this catheter, you're sure that you're not going to catch any infection because of this catheter specifically. So this is what essentially we are doing. So we'll be launching our catheters by February. Very recently, we're doing a soft launch, and by August or something, we are planning a big launch for our urinary catheter, and that's how we are going to grow into medical device segment, which is a much bigger market. And infection prevention is now at the center stage of all the healthcare expenditures that we are doing now. So we see a prominent growth path moving forward. So that's how we are moving with the journey.
So it was very much nice talking to you, sir, and you were very much informative, sir. And I personally wish you a very all the best for your upcoming projects. And from here onwards, Mr. Amrit will continue. And thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank. This session was quite informative for us, and I like to summarize some of the major highlights which we discussed for the people who have joined late or some people who might have left in between. So the very first thing is that the total scenario before COVID and after COVID has changed. Now research and development is growing at a much faster scale in India, and also young people can find many research opportunities here because government has launched many funding schemes. So it is a quite progressive area. Next thing is talking about particularly about the health finance. So the very first thing which was discussed is that eat healthy and have a healthy lifestyle. So at the first place, so for a longer period of time, you can avoid health problems and all. Next thing is like about the health insurance and the type of insurance which you could take. So there was Mediclaim insurance for the hospital expenses, then the family insurance, that is life insurance, then the term insurance plan. So these things you should attain at a much younger age so that you'll have things at a lower premium rate. And look for the claim settlement policies while taking insurance, the claim settlement ratios, and these things should be paid attention to, and not just the tax saving things and all, which normally what Indians do. Next thing is the he Dr. Milind mentioned about a equation that is like one of the best thing to take from this session. It is the what expenses and savings how we normally do and how we should do is the make your saving part separate in the beginning itself. Income minus savings should be your expenses. So follow a discipline that will be a very good habit. If you attain at an early age, it can give you lots of benefits while, and you will be in a financially better position. So these things is about habits and all. Next thing, it is mostly about this how entrepreneurship, and it is how people can come who are can be beginner in the startup field. It is mostly about your inner thing. How can you take challenges? Like first of all, you have to accept it from within that you are entrepreneur, and then later different challenges come. So very first thing is you have to be mentally strong from within to take up the challenges and all. So I think that was the conclusion from our side. If Dr. Milind, would you like to add something to this, or is that all?
No, I mean, wonderful, initiative. I always love because in my college days and in my PhD days also, I was kind of this way, wherein I was also trying to establish an association wherein young minds can share things, and then you can always
Yeah,
learn from this. I would still consider myself young because I
you
love
are.
interacting. Yeah, I love interacting with young people. So I mean, very very best of luck for this club that you've started, and it's a very important message that you guys are giving to people. Best of luck to all of you, and stay connected at Vnovate is on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us for more information about infection prevention, how you can save yourselves from a larger amount of expenditures or hospital bills.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you very much. Stay in touch.
We'll mention your whole social media profile in the description of the video so that in future also if somebody watches the video they can connect to you and we can
Sure.
share information. And all the
Sure.
best from Finance Club to your business and all, and the launches which you're going to have in the future in till August. You said you'll have a big launch. So all the best from our side.
Sure. Thank you very
Thank,
much. Thank you very
thank
much.
you for joining us. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah.